A Karen calls 911 because she can't use my land as a public road anymore. Let me tell you a story. A wild, frustrating, and honestly unbelievable story. It all started when I moved into my dream home, a quiet, secluded property with a nice stretch of land bordering a community with an HOA. At first, everything seemed perfect. Peaceful mornings, private space, no unwanted disturbances, or so I thought. Then, the trespassing started. I began noticing tire tracks on a narrow strip of land that led into the HOA neighborhood. At first, I shrugged it off. Maybe the previous owners used it for something. But then, one Saturday morning, I woke up, stepped outside with my coffee, and nearly dropped the mug. A line of cars was cutting right through my property like it was a public road. I stood there stunned, watching complete strangers use my land as their personal shortcut. At first, I thought it was a one-time thing, a fluke. But nope. It became a regular occurrence. And the worst part, the drivers acted like they had every right to be there. I'd wave, try to get their attention. Some ignored me. Some just gave me that "what's the big deal" look. The entitlement was unreal. One evening, I decided to confront one of these drivers. I stood right in the middle of the path, arms crossed, waiting as a shiny SUV came rolling toward me. The driver, some guy in a suit, actually had the nerve to honk at me, like I was the one in his way. When I didn't move, he rolled down his window and, with the most exasperated tone, said, "Can you step aside? You're holding up traffic." Traffic! On my land! Then, one morning, I came home to find a deep set of tire marks tearing up my yard. Someone had turned too wide onto the strip, spun out, and wrecked a good chunk of my property. That was it. That was the moment I knew. Enough is enough. So, I did what any reasonable homeowner would do. I set up a camera to catch these trespassers in the act. And let me tell you, watching those recordings was like stepping into an alternate reality. Parents were letting their kids ride bikes across my yard like it was a park. A guy in a golf cart actually waved at the camera like we were old friends. And the best one? Someone had the audacity to set up a lemonade stand on my land. I reached out to the HOA, expecting some sort of help. After all, they claim to care about property values and community standards, right? Wrong. They told me, well, since that strip of land isn't within our jurisdiction, we can't do anything about it. Oh. Okay, I see how it is. So, if they weren't going to fix the problem, I would. I hired a contractor, put up a sturdy fence, and added no trespassing signs all along the strip. Simple, effective, problem solved, right? Wrong again. The first day after the fence went up, I felt victorious. But by the second day, I started noticing something odd. My security cameras caught people standing outside the gate, staring at it like it was some great tragedy. A few even tried shaking it like I'd just magically change my mind if they jiggled it hard enough. The best part? A couple of teenagers tried climbing over it, only to get caught on the security spikes. They ran off screaming, and I couldn't help but laugh. Less than a week later, I came home to find a car parked by my new gate. The driver was blaring their horn, demanding attention. And then, out stepped Karen. Now, I didn't know her name at first, but trust me, within 5 seconds, I knew exactly who she was. You know the type. Entitled. Loud. The kind of person who demands to speak to the manager of life itself. She stomped toward me, arms crossed, radiating pure rage. "Are you the one who put up this gate? You need to open it, now! I'm already late!" I blinked, genuinely stunned at the audacity. I mean, who just walks up to someone's private property and demands access? But then, it all made sense when she said, "I'm on the HOA board, and we've been using this access point for years. You have no right to block it." Ah, there it is. I took a deep breath, reminding myself to stay calm. This is my property, and I don't want anyone driving through it. You're trespassing. Karen's face turned a shade of red I didn't even know was possible. "You can't do this. I'll have you know the HOA will hear about this, and you'll regret it." I wasn't intimidated. I knew my rights. I had done my research, and there was nothing the HOA could do about my fence. But Karen wasn't hearing any of it. Then, she pulled out her phone and called the police. Yes, she actually called 911 over a fence. When the officer arrived, he looked at the situation, then at me. "We got a call about someone blocking a public road?" I handed him the property map I had from the township. This isn't a public road. This is my land. He examined the map, nodded, and turned to Karen. Ma'am, this is private property. He's well within his rights to put up a gate. Karen, now in full meltdown mode, screeched, You don't understand. This has been an access point for years. He can't just do this. The officer sighed, clearly tired of whatever nonsense he had walked into. Ma'am, just because something has been used for years doesn't make it public property. Oh, but Karen wasn't done yet. A few days later, I was outside when I heard an engine revving. I turned my head just in time to see a pickup truck speeding straight toward my fence. My heart nearly stopped. I thought for sure they were about to ram it, but at the last second, the driver slammed on the brakes. The tires screeched, kicking up dirt. Then, like nothing happened, the guy just backed up and drove away. Almost like he was testing the waters. That's when I realized this wasn't just Karen. Some of these people were actively looking for ways around my fence. The entitlement had turned into sheer defiance. A few days after this, I got a letter from the HOA claiming I was blocking a public access point and demanding a meeting. I couldn't help but laugh. These people were actually trying to force me to open my property to them. Fine, I'll play. I arrived at the meeting with everything: documents, photos, legal proof. As I walked in, I saw Karen sitting at the head of the table, arms crossed, looking like she was about to deliver a death sentence. The HOA president spoke first. Several residents have raised concerns about your fence blocking a long-standing community shortcut. I cut him off. Let me stop you right there. This is my property. The HOA has no jurisdiction over it. Silence. Karen, desperate to regain control, slammed her hands on the table. You can't just claim a piece of paper makes this yours. We've always used it. One board member shifted uncomfortably. Are we even sure this falls under HOA rules? Another nodded. We should check legalities before pushing this further. Karen's face twisted in pure fury. This isn't over. But it was. Days passed. The HOA bombarded me with aggressive letters, threats of legal action. But I knew they were bluffing. And then, Karen took it a step further. She tried to sue me. Her claim? That I was violating a community easement by blocking a public road. My lawyer took one look at it and laughed. There was no easement, no case, nothing. But I wasn't done yet. I contacted a local news station that covered HOA disputes. They jumped on the story. The segment aired, and the response was brutal against Karen and the HOA. Neighbors started turning on her. The pressure mounted, and then Karen called me. For a second, I considered letting it go to voicemail. But curiosity got the best of me. Hello? There was silence on the other end. Then a sigh. Her voice was different, defeated. I may have overreacted. It was almost comical. The same woman who had called the cops, thrown a tantrum, and tried to sue me was now apologizing? I waited for the catch, for her to demand some compromise. But instead, after another pause, she simply muttered, "Enjoy your fence." And then she hung up. A few days later, I got another letter from the HOA. They were dropping the issue. Karen was stepping down from the board. And just like that, it was over. My fence was still standing. My property was still mine. And Karen? Well, I never saw her again.